Hello, everyone. I do believe that we're live. I have live chat on. Yes, I do, as opposed to top chat, because every single time I stream, inevitably, it resets to top chat instead of live chat. Because YouTube is just absolutely desperate to ensure that people are not, under any circumstances, exposed to any potential content that could upset or disturb them in any capacity, apparently. It is illegal for you to view all the comments on YouTube. It is illegal for you to focus on the material that people are actually creating that you might want to consume. Because feedback is dangerous. Feedback is highly upsetting. Hello, everyone. It's going to be a slightly more low-energy stream tonight because I'm just a tiny bit tired. I was up at like 7 a.m. I may move my streams back a little bit in terms of when I go live. I'm trying to suppress a yawn right now. Simply because I have somehow managed to reset my sleep schedule to the point where I actually manage to get up at a decent time of the morning as opposed to 3 p.m. But we have quite a few things that are interesting to go over today. I do like how it seems as if material whenever I feel, oh, there's not really all that much that I want to talk about, just that day always seems to magically create new things for me to examine, and new content for me to explore. First of all, I feel like it is entirely reasonable. Let me just see if I can find it. Where on earth is this post? Where on earth is this post? There's something that I really do need to highlight. Here it is. Allow me to just put it up here because I do believe sincere congratulations are in order. Here we are. Wait, did I even... is this even working? It might not be working. Oh dear, I forgot to do this. That's not good. Wait, why is it showing twice? That is truly bizarre. No, I'm not going to question it. I'm not going to question how OBS works. I really am not. I have learned that OBS is an alien thing. It is very much a case of the text priests. But anyway, so this actually apparently works. So then, gentlemen, I think that congratulations are most certainly in order for our one and our only Thrang, because he has now been given a place in the Internet Hall of Fame, and that is the Know Your Meme website. I think that we really need to recognize greatness when it walks among us. I've been seriously considering giving him a custom title for this. Something like, I don't know, famous internet personality. Because it really takes serious effort to get on somewhere like Know Your Meme. But he has managed to do so. He has managed to reach such an esteemed and popular position in the internet zeitgeist that he is featured on this legendary website, Know Your Meme. I think a fantastic round of applause. I want to see some clapping hands in chat. I want to see some clapping hands. A great leap forward for trans representation. Congratulations. Yes, indeed. Pippa's little trans sister, has now managed to make it onto Know Your Meme. There's literally no stopping. There's no stopping him now. I'd suggest practice laptop as a custom title instead. You know, I let people pay for custom titles. I wonder how much would Thrang pay me for me to not give him the Proctor's Lapdog custom title? I'm curious. Thrang, how much would you pay me to not give you that title? Like, what kind of insurance insurance against gaining that title would you perhaps give me? Gonna glow if Foxwoman is playing a joke on April Fools. Look in the Discord. Where is that ping gone? Why is it? Oh, right there. Why not did that ping vanish? I don't know. It showed up for like quarter of a second. Please don't give me an internet celebrity tag. I don't want to be Ethan Ralph. I refuse to participate in your cruel games. So in other words, you won't pay me to not give you the Proctor's Lapdog tag. Sorry, allow me to start drinking heavily. Foxwoman has 2.0 debut Monday. I know Pippa smashes the top Niji EN CCV, but I wonder if the other girls will eventually surpass them. You mean other girls in FaZe, I assume? I mean, I think an awful lot of FaZe girls already, like, mog a large number of the Niji EN people. I know, I think somebody posted a day or two ago, I think it was actually this morning, they posted about Finana's, like the gay educate yourself fish. The educate yourself fish. Her numbers are just going down and down and down and down steadily. I think she averages around 700 CCV nowadays. And I know that Tenma, every time I see Tenma stream on Twitch, Tenma is at least 1K. Now, I think that Dizzy fairly regularly breaks about the 700 mark. I see her on 700 every so often at least. So I'd say at bare minimum there are 3 FaZe girls that surpass original Niji EN talent. Oh goodness me, I can't stop yawning, sorry. I'm not actually all that tired, but for some reason the act of talking, I think it's because I don't regulate my breathing quite properly. Another delightful facet of autism that I have to deal with every day. But yes, there's a lot of people who are able to surpass the much defeated Niji-sanji EN girls. Of course, the Niji boys have plenty of Chinese fujos to worship them and supply them with endless money. Ollie is the only holo I know whose numbers went down. I mean, Ollie is a permanent sad girl. Yes, Finana's CCV took a 600 hit after the Zion arc. It's really, really stupid. I don't understand Finana at all. Everything that I hear about Finana is universally negative. She had that stupid trap thing where she literally banned the word trap in her as such a stupid thing to do. Like she made trap an auto censor in her YouTube and Twitch. I think she streams on Twitch too, like her streams. And then she played a game with tons of traps, and so hundreds of people were getting filtered in her chat for trying to tell her, "Oh, look out, there's a trap there. There is no famine, Niji sing." Almost all the worthwhile Niji EN tubers are gone. Despite that, losses are negligible. It's negligible losses, ladies and gentlemen. There is no, weakness is strength. Finana has done an amazing job of tanking her own community and is really financially irresponsible. She'll be in trouble soon if she isn't already. Yeah, and Vox doesn't stream YouTube any longer. Oh yeah, he streams on Bilibili. I can't think of anything more pathetic than streaming on Bilibili, honestly. That is just an admission that you are China's bitch. You may as well just have, like, Winnie the Pooh stickers on your monitor at that point. By how pathetic that is. I don't understand what it is about people like Vox who, for me, the only worthwhile girl still left in EN is Rosemi. I've only watched a tiny bit of Rosemi. Her voice kind of filters me. Not that it's a bad voice, but I just don't like that kind of high-pitched... it's weird. The only high-pitched, one of the very few high-pitched streamers that I actually enjoyed was Pippa's original voice, and for some reason I find Pippa far harder to watch now that she has the more natural and accented voice. I much preferred it when she had that kind of high-pitched cutesy rabbit voice. Finana is an immensely spoiled Asian American princess with no brains or morality. She's facing consequences for the first time in her life and can't deal with it. Yeah, and good riddance, honestly. I see no reason why she should have any mercy given the consequences of her own actions. Vox will get the PRC flag tattooed on him as a tramp stamp before it's over. I hate that. I 100% agree on Pippa's voice. Yeah, Pippa. Again, I don't begrudge her. I think that it's a sign. Again, this is personal opinion. Okay, I'm not saying Pippa would be better if she went back to the old voice. I'm just saying that. That personally, I think that her more high. She had one of the very few voices in VTubing that was actually good at a different pitch and level than normal. So when she went to it fit her model. It fit her model very well. So when she did like the high pitched voice, it actually suited her because in her normal voice, she sounds more. The problem is that Pippa sounds more natural. And one of the things that I found most attractive about Pippa is that she had that really cutesy, kawaii voice, which was... Shut up. Yeah, that Pippa had this really cutesy, high-pitched voice. This delicate voice that you would expect out of this hyper say-so adorable VTuber that talked about nothing but cutesy puppies and adorable reaction videos all day, and yet she was this wild, uncontrollable, completely unsay-so person. So that made it much more interesting, honestly, to hear her rambling on about extremely cursed stuff in that cutesy voice. But when she went to the more natural voice, it sounds a lot more standard. Like, I can expect her saying weird, insane things with the more naturalized and accented voice. Pippa sounding unnatural sounds natural. It's uncanny when she now sounds vaguely human. Yeah, that you get it. You get it, Porian. The appeal to me was the fact she sounded like this really say-so adorable VTuber, and yet she just said all this nonsense all the time. Any comments about the new Twitch rules? I mean, I have just dropped the top of my water bottle on the floor. That is very irritating. One moment, please. I need to find that. It has vanished. It has vanished into the darkness. There it is, right at the very back. I'll be 1 second. Oh, this is most annoying. Ah. I have emerged. I have emerged from the darkness. And yeah, I can see the cutesy voice having contrast when it comes to those topics. Precisely. The Twitch rules... Basically, it's just another case. Look, Twitch rules are utterly meaningless for the most part, because Twitch rules are completely arbitrary. It's totally transparent at this point that Twitch enforces its rules only when it feels like it. And I mean, I hate YouTube's rules. YouTube's rules are completely soulless, corporate, and user unfriendly. But I will say this for YouTube. YouTube seems to be fairly impartial overall when it comes to smacking people down. Whereas Twitch will let certain people get away with stuff that it would never allow if the person was a different race, gender, or in some other way visibly different. And I really dislike that. I mean, I'm not saying it does not happen on YouTube as well. It 100% happens on YouTube as well. 100% YouTube has been partial before, has been biased, and it probably still is. But the thing is, at the very least, it's such a monumental organization. It's so monumentally larger than Twitch in every capacity. The staff are... Well, actually, no. The staff of YouTube are probably very limited. They use bots and so on so much. But they have such a high-in-the-sky attitude to it all. So you're just less likely to be targeted. Whereas Twitch is a platform where a random Twitch moderator can take against you and just make your life a living hell. Whereas on YouTube, things just, you know, YouTube's bias is hidden and very behind closed doors. Twitch's nepotism is naked and vulgar. Yeah, precisely. That's a very good way to put it. It's a very good way to put it, someone. Look at Fillion. I'm amazed she hasn't been permabanned yet with all her yabs. Yeah, I mean, I suppose good on her. I'm not sure if I should. No, I won't comment. I'm not sure if it's entirely public. But I'll go. I'll say this, that apparently Fillion is fairly open to more political topics and so forth. She just like, she's not as innocent as she kind of comes across. She's not as Zoomer as she comes across as. And I'm not saying there's some deep hidden personality behind Fillion or anything. She's not like a mega paused or like hyper mega super based person, but I mean she's more blatant than you'd think, I'd say, and the whole Zoomer silliness thing is definitely put on quite a bit. You can just tell that by the way she acts often, but I'm still quite impressed by how far she manages to get. Let me just look back at the chat for a second. I didn't watch Prime Pippa, so I never got the hype. Dizzy and Leah seem much better at the Unhinged game. I mean, Leah was different in the beginning, most definitely. She had a model change and everything. Her new model suits are far better. But Leah, I would kind of disagree. Leah it feels more forced in Leah's case. Like with Pippa her advantage was the voice, was the cutesy voice. But she was naturally deranged. It was the cutesy voice that was the artificial part, and the derangement was natural. Whereas with Leah, she's obviously naturally more reserved and more delicate than the kind of stuff that... Ding ding, Proctor, breaking news. Pippa has cleared her block list, meaning we can expect Twitter schizophrenia to ensue. Check latest page of the Pippa thread. Oh joy, what's going on now? Why do I have multiple beeps? Why is everybody beeping me all of a sudden? Why is it whenever I start... Who the feck is beeping me from Kirsch's server? Oh, it's just an announcement. Oh, I see. I was wondering for a second. There seems to be this weird thing. It's like a couple of streams ago, like, oh, it's actually more about 6 or 7 streams ago by now. Like, people were commenting on the stream. They were watching this stream, but they were atting me in Kirsch's Discord, and I actually just pinged her and I said, why on earth can you please tell your members to use my stream chat and not at me in your Discord talking about my stream, okay? Because, like, they're literally breaking your rules at the moment about self-promotion and stuff. Why are they drawing attention to somebody who is not you, who is currently streaming, and interacting with them in your Discord? It was just this really weird thing. Fortunately, it's never happened again, but it was very strange. Very strange. The mystery of Nick... Good grief, Cubano man, could you please be less ESL? But it's good to see that happening. Do you think Iron Mouse fans are left-wing? I mean, Iron Mouse is pretty much exactly... This is the sad thing. If you are a person like Iron Mouse, you are basically blue no matter who, because the people on the left tend to be the kind of people who are... Let me just go back to just chatting for the moment. It's like with Comfy Lennox, who I still talk to and I quite like overall, but I feel very sorry for her because she is forced in a position where she basically has to rely on socialized welfare and healthcare to survive because of her very serious disabilities and very serious illnesses. And I'd say that Iron Mouse does not require it considering how much money she makes, but... I think some sympathy for those kind of people and understanding for them and their leftist viewpoints is should be acceptable simply because of the circumstances they're in. I appreciate how Tenma is more of a violent office lady type of unhinged rather than the usual schizo. Iron Mouse is a crippled brown single mother. How could she be anything but a lefty? That's a fun rat. That's a fun rat. She's forced terminally online, so of course she's blue. I mean, I was actually talking about this in Kirscha's server just this morning, actually. There was a bit of a debate going on about how to, or pretty much what is useful in terms of activism in current year overall, because Kirscha does an awful lot of streaming related to like Sweet Baby Inc. and Bridge and all of these important online things. Which I do agree. I sincerely agree that all of these things are problems. But what I consistently kind of not so much stand against, but think is the wrong direction, is how a lot of people in her community and in her Discord, and probably in this community too overall, because there is a considerable overlap, of course, feel that it's important to take online political stances and engage in political activism of various kinds. Whereas to kind of summarize how I feel about it all, I think that it's a case of scope in that the more broad the more broad your position is, and the larger the number of people you are trying to affect with your activism, the more inherently socialist and the more inherently Marxist things become, at least in terms of technique. Because the problem with socialism is that it works incredibly well. And when I say works, I mean it has tangible influence on populations, on thinking, on economies, on so on the largest scales possible. You can take socialism and Marxism and you can implement them on a governmental level because those kind of policies are inherently designed to work from a top-down perspective, in that you have a centralized authority source or a very powerful, influential movement which usually does not have a principal figurehead, but usually adheres to a set of socialist and broad-minded ideals that are then implemented in a top-down fashion on the rest of society. So basically, people go into your home or they go into your entertainment and they say, you are going to act this way, or we are going to seize the means of production, as in the means of political production, as in political authority or economic produce, etc. And then just go, we're going to divert these resources as we see fit to our own ends, which makes them very effective on the large scale. But then you look at how socialist societies have collapsed in the past. They have all collapsed from intrinsic problems from the economic systems that they implement, because the planned economic model just does not work. There is absolutely no debate. Planned economies do not work, period. And the Soviet Union collapsed when their economic system failed. And there's also a whole lot of other stuff that we won't go into right now. But basically, their system proved itself to be unsustainable, and it collapsed when the top-down governmental authorities were no longer able to create the illusion that these systems worked. Problem with socialism and socialist policies is that Western people are too dumb and selfish to make them work. I mean, I would actually flip that round, is that they are too dumb and they are too selfish to oppose them. Like, the fact these systems do not improve people's lives is not really the point, because it's two dynamically opposed things. Because when you take socialism, like classical Marxist socialism, Leninism, and Soviet principles, the idea is that you are changing people that you are taking people and you are changing their attitudes, their dominant mental attitudes, their personalities, their wants and their desires, to more adequately conform to a socialist collectivist mindset. Whereas on the opposite side, you have capitalism, whose principal concern is to address the individual wants and needs of people in ways that cater to their unique and specific needs in order to maximize profits. Now, of course, there is some overlap, of course. There are many capitalist systems which operate by going, we want to produce a mediocre product and then integrate it into people's lives to the point where they're dependent upon it, which is kind of capitalist systems via using communist solutions, basically. But I've been rambling. I'm sorry. I am a little bit tired, so I'm not going to be the absolute best at getting my point across. I do apologize. There are much more concise ways of putting my issues. But basically, well, to put it as simply as possible, I believe that the best way to influence change in society is to equip people with the tools they need to be proactive, independent decision makers who are able to critically think their way out of problems and who are educated enough to understand and avoid deeply rooted fallacies in economics, politics, and daily living situations. Because I feel that the way society is currently structured is totally against the way the human condition functions. It's a mouse utopia situation. We have too much access to things that satisfy our basic instinctual needs, but deprive us of true intellectual, of true societal, and true personal accomplishment. It's if you have an infinite supply of junk food available at your fingertips at all times, your desire for food is naturally going to be influenced in some way towards that easy route of just consuming junk food all the times. It takes a cognizant effort on your part to say, I am not going to simply reach out my hand and grab junk food. I am instead going to get up. I am going to set time aside in my life to engage with the act of cooking. So you have to make sure those incentives, you can't be controlled by these incentives, because this system, I mean, capitalism and socialism are basically saying, give in to let us decide what your needs are and let us satisfy them. And basically, I feel as if there is going to be absolutely no progress against any of these initiatives like DEI or progressive ideology, etc., unless people have somewhere to turn to, have some way to look at alternatives and go, these are better for us, these make us more effective. Mouse Utopia is bullshit. I completely disagree. I think the Mouse Utopia is the most illuminating and fascinating analysis of how civilizations collapse, probably, that's been conducted in the last 100 years. And it tracks very well onto historical trends as well, because great empires almost always fall after they have reached a state where the citizens have their needs fulfilled to a degree that they lose that desire for excellence which drove their ancestors. Like, Rome didn't really fall because of barbarian invasions or any one situation like that. It was simply because they lost the excellence of their forebearers. And it's easy to say excellence as some kind of almost, like, the fascists have this concept of excellence being innate to some races. Like, Hitler thought that there was something pure about the Nordic spirit that enabled them to have greater power than the average of other races. And it's easy to fall into that trap. You cannot compare the mind of the pest to the mind of the man. I think there is very little difference between the two. I think that that free will is, in fact, something that very few people exercise in their lives. I think the vast majority of people are driven more or less by instincts than they are by anything that is personal. I think that most people simply choose the easiest path in life, and it's a constant struggle in life to address that. And unless you are able to self-actualize in some way, and you're able to properly conceptualize your desires and your wants, then you are basically just a creature that is to be manipulated. I mean, this is why things like sorry, one second, I need a drink. I mean, this is why, let me just open it actually right now. One moment, let me go to my let me go to my essentials, intellectual content. Where is it? Books. Yes, silent weapons for quiet wars. I mean, this is why Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, aka the CIA, the leaked CIA training manual for how to manipulate society, has this quote in it. It says, "Those who will not use their brains are no better off than those who have no brains. And so this mindless school of jellyfish, father, mother, son, and daughter, become useful beasts of burden and trainers of the same." And there's another quote here somewhere, and I forget exactly. Where is it? Yeah, here it is. Yes, I always like this. I always love this quote from this part from Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. Let me just go to it actually. Let me just bring it up on screen so that people are actually able to see it properly. One moment, please. There we go. That is the weirdest thing ever. Preface, security, energy. Yes, here it is. Here we are. Let me go over there 1 second. Yes, here it is. And so let me just close that down as well. Yes, in 1954, this was the issue of primary concern. Although the so-called moral issues were raised, in view of the law of natural selection, it was agreed that a nation or world of people who will not use their intelligence are no better than animals who do not have intelligence. Such people are beasts of burden and stakes on the table by choice and consent. And those words, by choice and consent, is very important. CIA is out of touch with the world around them. Glow-ups are done over and over again with the same methodology an average man cast out at the latest school shootings. Are you joking? Are you joking? Like, the average person quite happily accepts all of the propaganda. Like, that's the thing. This is literally what they're saying, what they're pointing out, that the average person quite cheerfully accepts all of this propaganda as fact without any question whatsoever. It's literally why the systems are the way they are. A nation of ciphers? I'm not sure what you mean by a nation of ciphers, maniacal foreigner. But yeah, like this, this underscores my point, really, that the average person is very much led along by their own desires. And this is also, again, it's why it's a very big theme of Christianity as well. The difference between those who are who allow themselves to live in according to their sinful desires, whereas those who have the ability to conceptualize something better, who are able to put the desires for a better system of governance, that is, heavenly governance, ahead of their desires for sin, aka the meaningless indulgence in the things of the moment. The Matrix, ignorance is bliss. I agree with you. If that worked, they wouldn't need to yell ISIS over and over again at the latest shooting. Dazzle, are you insane? That's why they yell it, you idiot. That is literally why they yell it, because it works. Why do you think they yell it? Because it works. As much as I hate Marx, he was right. The people in power keep people too busy to sit down and consider how effed they are. Yeah, and this is the problem: is that the system of government today, and this is something that I was saying very much in Kirsch's Discord as well, like one of the major problems is that the way that humans live their lives is inherently incompatible with the ideas of free thinking, self-determination. Yeah, it doesn't work. It does work, Dazzle. You're just joking. Like, you're just joking. You are a complete idiot if you think that it absolutely doesn't. I'm sorry, you're completely wrong. It's just laughable how much you're wrong. The average person completely believes this. It is considered a fringe conspiracy, and I just move that over. It is considered a fringe conspiracy to think otherwise. Anyway, I'm just ignoring you from now on because you're just blabbering on about stuff you know nothing about. The adults are talking. Even if some people notice, most people don't see past the smoke screen. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if people noticed, they would do something about it, but they don't. Yeah, see, other people are agreeing with me. You don't even talk to people. Dazzle, I have a social circle of about 100 people minimum. Like, you know nothing about my life. I talk to people every day. I have a very large social circle. I literally go into a social club multiple times a week. I talk to people all over the internet. I probably have at least 100 different contacts. I mean, my best friend is an economist, and I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I do speak to an awful lot of quite intelligent people, and I also watch an awful lot of very interesting stuff. I mean, I refuse to get caught up in all of the meaningless and nonsensical intellectual gibberish that pervades things like YouTube and so on. It's why I much prefer watching people like Glenn Greenwald. I say this as a libertarian. Democracy fails because the people who notice are frowned out by those who don't notice, hence why I find democracy dangerous and anti-good and beautiful. I mean, again, this was another thing that I was speaking about in Kirsch's Discord, is that, it's like Benjamin Franklin said that democracy is two wolves and a lamb voting on what to have for lunch. And that is very often quoted as some kind of anti-democracy sting. But what a lot of people fail to remember is the second part of that quote, which is liberty is a well-armed lamb contesting the vote. I know that you've stuck your head in the sand. You imagine gay pride parade outside your window in countryside Ireland. Dazzle, you do realize that this would dox me, but my local town literally had a gay pride parade last year. Like a public gay pride parade with hundreds of attendees, and I can walk along my local shop avenue in Nowheresville, Ireland, that literally one of the most isolated locations in Ireland, and every single shop has a gay pride flag in the window. Like, I don't understand why you are so completely mentally isolated and incapable of understanding how pervasive this is. I have no idea what kind of world you live in where this just doesn't happen. It must be very, very delightful. I honestly wish sometimes that I could be in that world where this kind of stuff is not reality. But I mean, it demonstrably is. It's slowly changing, but it doesn't change very fast. And unfortunately, it changes. You see, this is the problem in that people are often saying, oh, the pendulum is swinging back towards the right. But the problem is the kind of people who have been manipulated into believing the progressive mindset for so long are also the ones that are very easily manipulated into believing the more right-wing extremist mindset as well. And I'm just about old enough to remember when move to Russia then, idiot. Yeah, I definitely want to live under a government that proactively bans religion and various other things. That is basically that you basically can't be any religion other than the Orthodox Russians. That would be very great for me, a non-traditional Christian. Uh, sorry about that. Where was I? Where was I? I'm sorry, I've just completely lost my train of thought. My apologies, my apologies. I've been pinged twice. Allow me to look at my pings. Leave the mouse utopia, get on the rat utopia known as VTubing. Okay, I'm sorry, Porian. Why do you stream when I Nobody bans any religion. Let me just check. Don't argue with idiots. They will bring you down to their level and beat you with experience. I'm Orthodox Christian. I even go to OCA, Russo-American, but Russian Orthodox are painfully reactionary to a point where they even reject the Renaissance. Whig history is a hell of a drug. I've been trying to warn people about how bad a backlash will be when the pendulum swings back to the right for well over a decade, but so many leftists think we'll keep winning forever. Yeah, I do agree. I think the trouble is that, again, as I was saying, I will just finish this line of thought anyway. I'm literally going to close my eyes so I'm not distracted by chat. That my points are that unless you give people the ability to make rational and independent decisions from a self-educated and intellectually sound perspective, then the same people who are manipulated by progressive ideas and concepts will be very easily manipulated by right-wing ideas and concepts. And those kind of people are just going to be sheep for whatever side has the loudest voice at the time. And we see that happening in the political landscape today, is that many people have no real understanding of the background of the political beliefs they claim to profess. They don't understand the history. And this is why I was so intensely, I used to be, I would say, fairly, not so much on the side, but I was very willing to listen to right-wing opinions and ideas and attitudes until the time of October 7th, when I saw almost universally every single right-leaning figure who originally said they were champions of free speech because the left were against free speech, every single one of them, without any exception whatsoever, after October 7th, immediately adjusted their stance and said with one clear voice, censorship is perfectly acceptable so long as it only affects people we don't like. It is perfectly acceptable to censor people so long as those people are speaking out against a certain group of very happy merchants, because those are now the oppressed class. It is important that we make exceptions in our policy for free speech in order to protect the real minorities, the real oppressed minorities. Using the exact same language and the exact same rhetoric as the leftist side that they had denounced for over a decade to that point. All it needed was for the people that they viewed as special to be victimized. That would be ideal, but that only works in practice if you assume that all people are lacking in the opportunities to critically think. Most people just don't want to keep up and rather be reactionary. Yeah. The mainstream right is controlled. Yes, Proctor, what a shocking revelation. I mean, there's like George Galloway in Ireland, in England, sorry, not Ireland, in England. And he's a very notorious reactionary leftist figure. And he is very leftist, but I mean, he's leftist in the traditional sense that I have a certain level of respect for. And he has a great phrase to describe like the left and the right. He calls them two cheeks of the same arse. And I think that is a perfect way to describe modern politics. Something I've always wondered at is they call you anti-Semitic but never a liar. Why is that? Yeah. There is only one way to affect major change. I was boycotting Israel before it was cool. James Lindsay lost me defending Israel and refusing to say Christ is king because it's hateful. His Gnostic arguments are great, but at this point, F him. Yeah, it's about, horseshoe theory is a thing. I overall agree. It was like October 7th was a very major. Sorry, I have just managed to nip my lip, and I've got a piece of skin hanging off my lip. So 1 second, I need to get that out of the way. Otherwise, it will annoy me for hours. Oh, that's so annoying. Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with people whose principles are clearly stated, even if those principles are dramatically in opposition to my own. This is why I've actually found it much easier to talk to people like Muslims and so on than I have with leftists, because with well, obviously not a radical Muslim, but with the average Muslim, I've found that I've been able to have quite productive conversations with them because we both know what our boundaries are. We are not pretending or dancing around things for the sake of scoring cheap political points with each other. I will not defend horrible people who actively hate me. That's all there is to it. Yeah. I have no problem with people hating me. Just don't pretend that your hatred is some form of love. James Lindsay is a useful idiot. His Gnostic witch hunt is embarrassing to anyone actually versed in the history of religion and occult practice. I do think that James Lindsay is very good at explaining certain things. I think he's very good at explaining the leftist mindset overall. But again, I think that he is very autistic. He is very difficult to get through in a lot of cases. And he is most definitely being used as a useful idiot. I can't deny that. That's very true. Let me just make sure. Yeah, that's what it did. Not bad. Good. But I'm going to move on from this topic now. I really should get into the habit of like structuring my streams a little bit more. Or rather, I would, but I realize I've just not. I'm terrible tonight. What on earth is wrong with me? Google Documents. Here it is. My apologies. Let's get on to this topic because I find it quite interesting. Because in the VTuber world, I do apologize for not talking about VTubers for quite some time, that the VNU situation has gotten quite interesting, and there is also some commentary that I need to look up before I start reading this. There is some commentary on, because I made a specific thread for VNU on the forum, and I need to go back to it and I need to edit it a bit more soon, but let me just scroll down a bit to make sure it's find it. Yes, somebody posted a very good analysis of because VNU is a Korean company, and people that know a bit more about a Korean culture than me. What am I doing? That is not the one I was meant to move. There we go. Let's move chat over to there. His Gnostic Argents thoroughly debunks National Socialism and Fascism as far as I'm concerned, because wingnuts don't seem to realize that. Yeah. Okay, we'll get back to that at some point. Anyway, as I was saying, like VNU Entertainment is a Korean company, and Koreans are not well known for their wonderful business dealings, shall we say, and I think what this poster in the thread said is very illuminating, but we will get on with that after I've actually had a chance to look through this document. I'm going in more or less blind here. I prefer to keep my attitudes to be honest and open. There are some things obviously that I pre-read, but how long is this document? It's not very long at all. This is it's a very comprehensive one. I do like it almost instantaneously. So it starts here. I addressed my initial statement to VNU by VNU Entertainment only on my stream, as I did not want to put further energy into the situation. I wanted to move on and focus on the future. Originally, I did not include specific information and details at that time, as I wanted to preserve some semblance of privacy for myself. However, with the release of their most recent statement, I feel the need to address the situation one final time to refute the multiple incorrect and inaccurate statements by my previous agency about me and my graduation/termination. The first claim by VNU states that it has not always been easy for us to work with her, as we had to change and reassign her a new manager 4 times to meet her needs, but we believed it was all part of the process. This was an absolutely terrible statement by VNU as well, because it made them sound dreadful. Like, if you have to reassign a manager 4 times, it's one of those things that you can tell that they thought was an own against her, as if to say, oh look, this VTuber is so terrible, we had to give her 4 different managers, whereas it's a company's responsibility to properly pair a manager with a talent. If you have to change a talent's manager 4 times in a row, then it is very obvious that your ability to properly handpick managers and match them with talents is sub-zero. This is false. I never requested for my managers to be changed. This was done by my agency without my knowledge or consent. My agency never expressed to me during the time we worked together that I was hard to work with. If anything, I tried to accommodate their requests, demands, and the way they managed things. All 3 times my managers were changed, it was due to other reasons which I will detail below. The first manager I had when I started working at VNU will be referred to as Man 1. 1 worked with me during my debut and for a period of about a month after that. The only language I know and speak is English, and I was hired specifically to bring in a Western audience. Therefore, I required an English-speaking manager. 1 did not speak the best English and also did not have the best management skills. There were numerous cases where my questions would go unanswered, which would then require me to follow up and tag him multiple times for him to see and acknowledge it, or he would take my questions to a higher up, and I would sometimes get an answer back if I was lucky. There were also a lot of miscommunications due to the language barrier regarding my needs and wants on certain assets. One example is my model. I made a whole folder of samples showing the expression toggles I wanted for my model, which was requested by Man 1. None of these expression toggles were delivered. I brought up the fact that these expression toggles were missing, but management disregarded my concerns. As I did not want to seem picky or complain, I accepted the circumstances as I thought they knew best. Some time passed and I was randomly informed that Man 1 was then moved to a different department and I was assigned a new manager. My second manager will be referred to as Man 2. Man 2 was assigned to be my manager after Man 1, and she told me she was not the best at English or had prior management experience, but that she would try her best. I was okay with this because I did not want to cause issues or seem mean, as I can acknowledge that English is not everyone's first language. 2 was very nice, but there were miscommunications and times when it was hard to reach her with questions and statements. However, suddenly she was no longer my manager and I was not given a heads up. I was assigned my next manager who also managed 10 talents alone. Rookie mistake, never assume the higher-ups know best. I agree. Korean entertainment is sweaty esports and idle abuse. I respect the bravery of anyone who willingly joins a Korean company. Where's my shoe? There's my shoe. Did anyone on the forum say they wanted to bid on one of the models from Akio? No, not really. I sent Akio Air a follow-up email asking some more specifics. They have not gotten back to me since then. One second, I need to blow my nose, please. Yes, I have said it before, but I will say it again. Like the management scene. Sorry, I'm moving around my chair. The management scene on the VTuber scale of things is just absolutely terrible. The number of managers out there who have proven to be totally unreliable, who have proven to be sex pests, who have proven to be incompetent, or who have just like farmed themselves out to dozens of talents and have completely failed to properly care for any of their needs is, I can think of like 5 or 6 examples just off the top of my head, and good managers are like gold dust. Only give as much loyalty to a corporation as they give to you first. Until they demonstrate loyalty, you're a mercenary. I would overall agree with that. Hard to imagine China is worse. They could well be. A completely transitional mercenary relationship. I mean, the tragedy is that we are talking about fairly young, emotionally vulnerable women. I've said it before, but VTubers, you can't be a VTuber and be mentally healthy. You have to have a minimum of 1 mental illness to be a VTuber. Usually it's some kind of severe social isolation. People who are socialites, who are extroverts, who are perfectly comfortable with outside and normal socialization, do not become VTubers. They become conventional entertainers. So it's very difficult for VTubers to act in a mercenary fashion simply because, for the most part, they're not wired that way. Speaking of sex pests, that Tessa person was making romantic advances on 5 talents they were working with and ended up in a polycule with 2 of them. I hate modern terminology. Polycule, are you joking? It's just so absurd. I actually have that open in a tab. At least, do I have it open in a tab? Yes, I do. No, I don't. I'm a fool. I do not. But I can easily get to it. So that's not a problem. Let me just move my microphone a little bit closer. There we go. Let me continue with this. My third manager, as mentioned above, will be referred to as Man 3. 3 had no prior experience with managing and was our marketing leader prior to being made manager to 10 talents. My experience with 3 was negative. Initially, he seemed to really care and tried to implement changes as he knew and acknowledged how bad our management system was. However, as time progressed, I slowly started to feel as if he didn't care. There would be many times when I would ask him for guidance and help, and the only responses I would receive were, "I'm really busy right now," or "I can't, I'm working on Gen 3. As this was during the time Gen 3 was in pre-debut, I fully understood the stress of making sure a generation debuted, but I felt tossed aside and made to do and learn on my own. I was also very nervous at the fact that we were getting new talent so very fast. When I confronted Man 3 about this, I told him that it wasn't a very smart thing to do, as V and U already had a lot of talents and was pulling a Niji. I like this woman. To which he replied, that was the idea, because the CEO had a plan with all the talents. When I asked him if the plan was a good plan, he only told me, I mean, it's a plan. I really like that. That's hilarious. I wonder if somebody ghost wrote some of this because it's really hilarious. So Man 1 was wholly ESL, Woman 2 was sleeping with the CEO, and Man 3 was typical overworked to death Asian intern that starts optimistic and turns jaded. That's a fairly good analysis. Hollow has a pretty decent rep in my eyes, and even then I don't fully trust them. I say never let fully let your guard down, because most corpos aren't peakable. They are a body made to make money. Counterpoint, Juniper, Kirsha, and Sheena. I mean, Kirsha is definitely is deeply introverted. Juniper, I don't really know. I don't even know which Juniper you're talking about. Like Sheena, I'm not sure what you mean by her. Like, Kirsha is very introverted. She's very severely mentally ill, too. I wonder if she got the pulling a Niji from my January tweet. That would be hilarious. Dude's funny, credit where it's due. Also, Limu, although she was streaming for years, she's mentally stable though. You know what I've noticed? Nobody panics when things go according to plan. Regarding V&U Entertainment, statements about respecting my time off requests, my agency was not completely supportive and pressured me multiple times, specifically during my move to my grandmother's house that she had willed to me. My personal items and streaming setup was delayed in transit and was not going to arrive for another week, despite being promised next-day delivery. I had nothing except for a blow-up mattress and a couple of clothes. All my work stuff was packed up in a pod that I was not able to reach due to it being in transit. I let 3 know this, as these issues were not due to my negligence, and updated him at every possible opportunity. Over time, 3 was not receptive to these issues and demanded that I make content regardless. I told him that wouldn't be possible as I had nothing except for my phone, and the only thing I could do was make a couple of tweets to update my community. He gave me a deadline to get back to streaming, disregarding the circumstances and everything I had said prior. This stressed me out as I was afraid I would be fired, let go, and I would lose the only thing I had at that time to make ends meet. Once my streaming setup arrived, I returned to streaming immediately and tried to forget about these interactions. You know what I've noted? Oh, sorry, I read that already. This sounds very much like Korean intern. Like Big Whale said earlier, this was a typical overworked to death Asian intern that starts optimistic and turns jaded. I quite agree. This is exactly how a Korean or Asian intern would act. There's a saying in China. It's meibanfa. That some people explained to me once. Meibanfa means there's no solution and I don't care. And meibanfa is a very common term in China, and it's used very often by people who basically know that something is not their department or believe that it's not their department. They want to just keep their head down and do whatever. And so whenever they're asked to do something that is outside of their very, very explicitly and clearly defined purpose, they go, meibanfa, meibanfa. Where was that Chinese proverb Metal Gear Solid? I've no idea what that reference is. I'm afraid I have never played any MSG game in my life. But this is Korean, obviously, so the culture is not identical. But this feels very much like Meibanfa Manager, where he's just like, there's no solution, I don't care. Just do it, okay? Just do it, I don't care. I have no solution for you, it's your business. Let me have a drink. After that, I started making TikToks and YouTube shorts featuring my singing. A couple of my TikToks blew up, received a lot of views, and got Man3's attention. I was praised and finally received assistance for the first and one of only 3 times on how to continue gaining numbers on both YouTube and TikTok. After continuously singing and streaming, my voice began to give out and I had to reduce the number of TikToks. I went to an otolaryngologist, I believe, and after examination was told my vocal cords were inflamed and I was to go on vocal rest immediately to prevent further damage. I told 3 this and he said he understood. After that acknowledgement from management, I streamed for shorter durations and reduced the amount of streams. I only posted TikToks and shorts when I could. Due to this, my social media growth slowed down. During one of my regular meetings at this time, 3 told me, if any of the other talents were in your position, they wouldn't waste this opportunity and stop working. After hearing this, I cried because I felt as if I wasn't doing enough for my company and my community. Next day, I confronted 3, and he told me it wasn't what he meant to say and that he was sorry. I forgave him, but I still carry these words with me, and they still affect me to this day. Yep, once again, Korean intern absolutely does not care. He's never sung in his life. He just doesn't care. After having enough with my agency's mismanagement, which was causing my mental health to decline, I expressed my intentions to graduate for the first time in 2023. They wanted to compromise with me and asked what they could do to keep me with them. All I asked from them was for a change. I told them that I knew it would take time, but I wanted them to at least try. This never happened. I wonder what that change was. Does she elaborate? I don't think she elaborated it further. Man who run behind car get exhausted, but man who run in front of car get tired. Shogunai in Japanese communication communicates the same idea of this is totally outside my control and I'm not going to worry about it. I know that word because shogunai is a phrase that Botan uses sometimes in a trolling fashion, and I just love it when Shishiro Botan says shogunai. There's something about it that is just so perfect. I really love Botan. Botan is definitely my favorite Japanese talent. Pomu disapproves. Shogunai. I just love that saying. I actually use it in real life sometimes after hearing Botan say it. After these meetings, some time passed and Gen 2 was finally given their own manager who will be referred to as 4. 4 also did not have prior management knowledge, but he did speak English and expressed that he would do his best and was willing to learn for us. I finally was happy and trusted 4 with everything. He made me feel worthy of asking for help and trying his best every day, but of course, this did not last long. My birthday was coming up, and after all the talents begged for months for birthday merchandise after being told no, we finally got permission for it. I decided to do a birthday donathon for my birthday celebration, and 4 helped me plan it. I made milestones infographics so that with every milestone I reached, a new reward would be unlocked. One of these milestones being an original song. I asked 4 twice to look over the milestones and make sure I would have permission from higher up to deliver these milestones. He said they were all fine to do. During my birthday stream, I was exhausted after planning and worked on this event for countless nights and ended my stream early. I made about 3,000 USD. After my birthday stream, I took a break for about a week due to my mental health declining, as I felt I had let everyone down and that my birthday celebration was a failure. During my break, 4 messaged me and asked if I could have a quick meeting with him. This is when I found out I wouldn't have been allowed to make an original song, even if I used my own money to do so. Now, this is absolutely baffling to me. Can anyone at all explain to me why the actual fuck you would not allow one of your talents to, on her own dime, make an original song? Why? That is so bizarre to me. I cannot even begin to understand it. People need a better term than mental health declining. It's getting tired. How about a case of the vapors? Oh, blimey, my wrist just clicked. C'est la vie. Man, how is the only requirement to be a VTuber manager the ability to breathe? Because there basically are no VTuber talent managers with any skills. I mean, unironically, I think I have an equivalent level of skill to any one of these people. Because the problem is that being a VTuber manager is not a particularly well-paying job. From what Kirsha has told me, the average VTuber manager gets 10% of the talent's income. So let's assume that Kirsha makes $50,000 in a year. So, wait, what has happened with Discord? Oh, no, we're back. Sorry, we're back. For some reason, Discord just logged me out for some reason. We're back. That Kirsha said that, so Kirsha makes like 50,000, and so a manager is going to make like 5,000 out of that. So you would need to make minimum wage for a talent manager. You would have to have something like 6 to 8 talents at your disposal all at once. Deboop. The only thing that would make sense would be a rights issue, but they clearly have the rights to make money with her models, so question mark. Everyone knows talent management agencies exist to stop management to stop talents from producing content. Or Asian ones do, apparently, since this seems so common among them. Probably some business management degree, but zero skill. I mean, yeah, I have actually looked into getting some kind of formal management qualification at some point, which might be something I pursue. We'll see. We'll see. They need to control the song, afraid of her getting the rights, only thing I can think of. Yeah, that is about the only thing that I can think of too. It's basically shooting yourself in the foot because you're scared of losing rights, which is just insanity. I have no idea why Discord hiccuped just then. Where was I? Because this is a giant paragraph. I confronted 4 and told him we talked about this milestone award twice, to which his response was, I guess there was some miscommunication. During this same meeting, my agency also confronted me about my streams of the games South Park and Class of 09. Originally, they had applauded me for these VODs as they were exceeding expectations. They liked these VODs so much that they told me to change the thumbnail to further increase the views and analytics. During this meeting, they stated that I had promoted hate speech and promotion of eating disorders. In case people don't know about Class of 09, there is a fairly infamous part in it. Sorry about my chair creaking. There's a fairly infamous part of Class of 09 where the protagonist and her co-workers basically bully a person who suffers from anorexia into having a recurrence of anorexia. I mean, it's played for laughs and it is quite funny, but it is very, very much non-PC. So, yeah, I can understand a corporation having a little bit of upset over a talent streaming something like that, because yeah, Class of 09 is about the most non-say-so, corporate unfriendly game you could possibly get. So, I mean, if a company came to me and said, you're not allowed to talk about this, then you're not allowed to stream this game, I would be upset, but I would understand. But the fact that they let her stream this game, and then later on, after encouraging her, I mean, they also joined a white supremacist movement. Yeah, I mean, Class of 09... Class of 09 is it's hard to explain. Class of 09 is supposed to be it's not a satire. It's not a satire. That's the stupid thing. Like, this was like when Kirsha first played Class of 09, she was able, she praised Class of 09 very extensively because she said, you know, Class of 09 is an amazing satire of like white schools in that period of time. Like, it's so, people who were alive and went to school during those times will see the satire in all of this, and it's such an amazing lampooning of attitudes there, and it's so incredible about, you know, highlighting the hypocrisy and the insanity and the lunacy of the kind of people in these games, and she thought this is an amazing satire. And then she got the developers on, and she talked to the developers, and they all said, what are you talking about? This isn't a satire. Class of 09 is a documentary, because this is really how things are. What are you talking about? This isn't a satire. This is completely serious. We wrote this as completely serious, and the heroine is actually a brilliant, empowered person who is the only good person, and we fully endorse everything that she does because she's taking charge of her life, and she's exploiting like the racist, sexist, and other like leftist talking point nonsense that goes on around her, which was disgusting and terrible and should never have been allowed to happen. And there is something like a 9-hour audio recording of the Twitter space that Kirsha had with the developers. I don't even remember most of it, but I might be exaggerating some of that. But that was basically what the developers were like. It was one of those cases where their satire, that what came across as satire was actually them writing in the most sincere way they possibly could. And that's just, this is why I'm speechless about it, because I have no words. It was one of those rare topics where I am completely speechless about the whole affair. Because you have to listen to these people talk to kind of understand the level of insanity they had. It was the equivalent. I would say the Class of '09 is very much like Fatal. If anyone knows what Fatal is, like the tabletop RPG Fatal, and how this is a very, very old bit of internet lore, where Fatal is this unbelievably disgusting RPG, which is like you can't even describe. I couldn't even describe a tenth of the things in Fatal without being instantaneously demonetized. I mean, possibly have the video just removed from YouTube, because Fatal is one of the most violently offensive games ever. It is disgusting on a level that becomes hilarious. But the thing is that the developer of Fatal unironically and sincerely believes it is a perfect simulation of medieval fantasy life, and has written very lengthy diatribes about how the people criticizing the game just don't understand his deep and sincere passion for capturing the realism and the accuracy of these things. And it's a case of this person is clearly completely mental, but they're mental in a way that becomes I should read, like, RPG, like, you had to be there due to this. You had to be there. I can't even describe what Fatal is like. Many years ago, I did a dramatic reading of the RPG.net review of Fatal. And no audio recordings of this survive. It wasn't recorded, but I might one day do another. It is, I don't swear. I very, very rarely swear, but the only exception would be like the profanity-laden review of the RPG.net review of Fatal, because it's so beautiful. It's such the RPG.net review of Fatal is probably one of the greatest reviews in the entirety of the history of the internet, because you can tell how much reading about Fatal mentally destroyed the reviewer, and how much intense vitriol and visceral disgust they are getting out by discussing the game. It is beautiful. It is one of the most moving and beautiful pieces of literature on the internet. I am not joking. I am not joking in the slightest. I'm not joking in the slightest. I'd say do it, but then you might have to fight H-Bomber Guy's plagiarism gang for reading that article. Screw H-Bomber Guy. Fatal has horrid subject material, and the mechanics for the game are a clunky mess that makes Exalted look like the perfect game. I mean, Fatal's mechanics are objectively broken. You cannot play a game of Fatal, really, because it is just completely broken. Like, Fatal is the temple OS of RPG.net, of tabletop games. Sorry. That was clever. I drank my water the wrong way. Yeah, Fatal is the temple OS of tabletop games. There's no doubt about it, except not religious in the slightest. Fatal is something the Antichrist would play. like get a few demons, get a few, avowed Satanists, like channeling the spirit of the ancient ones around a table, and ask them, hey, what do you would like to play? And they're like, we'll play a game of Fatal, thank you. For a less nerd reference, it's like if the director of Starship Troopers came out and said he stands 100% with the jingoistic ways of the Republic destroying all alien life. It's so beautiful. It really is amazing. It's just so beautiful. I really do need to do another reading of that review because it's just so amazing. One moment, please. Yeah, okay, we're good. Where did I go? Where did I get here? Okay. Yeah, I denied this, and they wouldn't explain and did not explain further. Wouldn't listen and did not explain further. However, they did not remove said VODs despite accusing me for the above reasons. They placed me on disciplinary action immediately following this and without warning. They then announced this action as a hiatus on their VNU Twitter account, as they did not want to make the disciplinary action situation public. In other words, they did the Nietzsche thing of stealth suspension. All my access to my social media was taken away, and I was given a temporary Discord account so that they could keep in contact with me. By this point in time, I reached my breaking point and decided I could no longer work with VNU. I then informed them of my decision to graduate as of the first week of February 2024. I did not ask them for compensation as I just wanted to leave. I don't blame you. I knew that I would be terminating my contract early, which was 3 years long as stated by VNU. Absolutely. Why on earth is my Discord letting pings through? Why is it not in streamer mode? What the hell? How did it turn off stream? Oh, it turned off streamer mode because it reset for some reason. One nanosecond to stop getting. I need to set streamer mode again. Otherwise, I will constantly get pings. Streamer mode enabled. Enable. Yeah. Sorry about that. I apologize. The 3 years long contract is a massive red flag. I would say that VTubers should sign year-long contracts, and that's it. The VTuber bubble is bursting. I don't think that the VTuber bubble is bursting. I think that VTubing is currently a buyer's market, not a seller's market, because there are VTubers debuting every single day now. I would say I would not be surprised if 5 to 10 new VTubers started streaming every single day at this point. But the problem is that VTubing has become fairly mainstream. I mean, we've had billboards up in Times Square for crying out loud. So the average person who is likely to watch VTubers is already captured by that audience. They are already an audience member. And so it is becoming increasingly more self-cannibalizing. The VTuber industry is cannibalizing itself for views rather than expanding into new markets, with some exceptions. For example, that the Spanish market is still very underserved because Spanish fans are insane. I've watched BB talk about it a bit. That 3-year contract is something VNU is lying about to the talents, by the way. The contract explicitly states that the term is 1 year, but has a 3-year NDA. That's very interesting. Thank you very much for that bit of context, Gigadramon6. I appreciate that. Ow, ow, ow. I think it's too big to just burst. It might contract a bit, but there's still constant engagement at the space. I don't think that VTubing is going anywhere. I think that VTubing is becoming so easily accessible and so completely ubiquitous that... and again, the technology is only getting more accessible. I believe that within 2 or 3 years, there will be viable programs that automate rigging to some point or another, where it will become cheaper and cheaper and easier to become a VTuber. And it will get to the point where just the reality of having... That just the reality that having a VTuber avatar catches attention, even briefly, more than just having your face on the screen, is going to attract people to use VTubing for various things. It would not surprise me if within a couple of years that we regularly start seeing VTuber avatars acting in commercials and so on. That VTubers are being used, or VTuber style avatars are used for commercials, for PSAs, for various other things. Spanish market underserved. No, I said underserved. Underserved, as in there is a lack of professional Spanish companies serving the Spanish market. I didn't say undeserved. I'm sorry if I said undeserved by accident. They also look to be committing payroll fraud against the talents. It's structured as and has the terms of an employment contract, but it says it's an independent contractor agreement. Well, I would not expect anything less. That VNU is very obviously severely scummy, which I think is quite sad, actually, because VNU has some genuinely interesting talents. Like, I like Leora Walkyrie, or Welcuria, or however you pronounce it. Like, she's a fun talent. I really enjoy watching her stream sometimes. Before these meetings, I already acknowledged in my mind that I would have to pay back some costs, such as the costs of my model and assets, for leaving early. However, during these meetings, they told me I would have to pay for damages and losses totaling up to 600 million South Korean won, which according to conversion rates totals up to 450,000 USD. This was the amount of money that they demanded I pay back so that I could graduate/terminate my contract, and if I did not do that, they would press charges against me, which they acknowledged in their statement on the 21st of March. I told them that before I promised to pay anything, I would need to see an itemized list with proof and receipts of these costs and payments. This took them a week to compile and deliver, as the initial meeting was on the 6th of February. When they gave me the itemized list, I immediately saw that a lot of the costs/damages/losses listed were fictitious, as they tried to charge me with things such as direct labor costs, projects that included other talents, assets and materials that I was not allowed to use or had access to, and more. When I asked them questions regarding the amounts of money listed and if this was legal, they muted multiple times for 3 to 5 minute intervals during the meeting to talk amongst themselves. I also asked them if I would still be receiving the money earned from my birthday subathon and for the month of December, to which they said they would be withholding it as the punishment due to my disciplinary action for the time being. No weeb in the world is worth that much in their lifetime. I mean, I disagree. I would say that the top earning VTubers earn at least that much every year. 5x? No, it's probably closer to 20x what they paid. Yeah, it's just, this is very, very obviously crossed over into the realms of you defied us, therefore we intend to destroy you. And she did the right thing, and she immediately got legal help. I mean, she should have gotten legal help to begin with. She was overdue for getting legal help in all this, but she did not bow before the pressure, and she got legal help, and she stood up to this company, which is a good thing. I praise her wholeheartedly for doing this. I think she's a little bit stupid for even signing up with a Korean contract to begin with, but I praise her for managing to turn it around. It's like they projected the costs of the manager's yearly paychecks multiplied by the number of managers she had and billed it to her. $1 gazillion for hurt feelings. Oh, yeah. I decided to get a lawyer to look into everything, as I felt I was being taken advantage of. Yeah, guys, you've been hitting me with a crowbar for about 3 days at this point. I think you may have violent intentions towards me. After sending my lawyer all of the documents, he told me that the itemized list was in fact illegal in the US and not actionable. He also reviewed my contract and said the contract did not make sense and could be considered null due to the way it was written. Therefore, he told me to tell them that I would not be paying the USD amount and to lose all contact with VNU, as they would not be able to press charges against me since I lived in the US. Additionally, they could not force me to go to Korea to pay either. I did as my lawyer said and told VNU that I would not be paying them and that I would not be losing all contact with them as of 27th. I did not say once that further communication should be through legal procedure. At that point, I was done communicating with them and told them and clarified that fact twice. They acknowledged me cutting contact and my refusal to pay and told me they understood the circumstances and they would take action as needed. I then waited 2 weeks for VNU to make an announcement about my departure, but it never happened. I debated saying something myself, but I did not want to escalate the situation at that time or make things worse. I lurked in the VNU Discord and saw so many of my fans wishing for my return and to come back healthy and happy. I also saw they did not close my memberships and were still receiving money from that, as well as releasing merchandise while acting like I was still a part of the company, as they were posting videos of me celebrating the MV release and anniversary. This broke me as no one knew I would not be returning, so I decided to ask my YouTube moderator to put an announcement of my departure in my section of the Discord server to let my fans know, as VNU neglected to do so. After much consideration, I decided to keep streaming and went back to my old account, Alien Mixture. I wanted to let my fans know what happened and why I was gone for so long, as you all deserve to have an answer that wasn't provided otherwise. I do not wish to continue focusing my energy onto this matter anymore. I instead wish to focus my energy into rebuilding my community as well as to rebuild myself and move on. They can say what they want to say. I know what happened to me and what I went through, and I will not let them gaslight me into thinking otherwise. I do not wish to keep being reminded about this, which is causing me to relive the past over and over again. To my fans and the VTuber community as a whole, I want to thank you for supporting me, and I hope that all of you will continue to do so in the future. And I feel immense sympathy with this poor woman for all that she's gone through. Again, I think that she was not the most intelligent to get involved in all of this to begin with. But what she went through is disgusting. It's a Korean thing. They did it to Twitch after they left the region. What do you mean by that, someone? Niji-sanji's more like Atari pumping out garbage. Sometimes worried VTubing will go through a 1983 style crash and HoloLive is the Atari. I really don't think so. I think that HoloLive is going to remain on top. Because the 1983 crash happened because of an overabundance of garbage products, whereas HoloLive most definitely does not have garbage products. I mean, the worst HoloLive talent is still, whoever you think that might be, is still carefully picked and carefully curated, and HoloLive is a veteran in the industry at this point, and I have no doubt that they will continue producing quality VTubers. The only way that HoloLive could fail is if they suffer an enormous brain drain and they start doing absolutely ridiculous and stupid things. Anya is technically the worst, but I mean, even in terms of numbers, like, she's still a perfectly good person. Blue Woman hate. And now people are all gonna say their own most hated HoloLive character. Oh dear. But yes, I don't predict a crash in the VTubing space anytime soon. I do predict a contraction and a slowing down. Holo opened up business in California. It's completely over for them, bros. Yagu and Gay Ben have the same precarious position of everyone panicking when either of them retire/die. Possibly. Possibly. But I'm not too worried. I really am not worried. Allow me to go to the VNU thread and just go to the post that I thought was worth highlighting. Here it is. Here it is. Back we go. We zoom in a tiny bit. And I'll also turn off chat I'll just turn off chat so that I can read this properly. Because this, I think, was a very good summation of the situation in Korea from Fern. Korea is a country where getting a boss who's only a mild dick is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This mainly lies in the societal and educational issues that Korea as a country faces due to its rapid economic growth under dictatorial rule. While previous dictatorships have been dethroned, Korea still suffers from an aging population and low birth rate, owing to government programs to reduce the birth rate in the past and the growing cost of raising a child in the country. As such, Korea suffers from a government voted into power mostly by 30 to 40-year-olds, and that specific slice of the population is one of the worst generations the country has ever seen. That is why, even though various societal reforms and such have been somewhat successful in the past, Korea is still hyper-resistant to change and is hell-bent on keeping the broken systems of the past dictatorial rules alive. The entire political system is run by conservatives, and the ones that call themselves liberals are the most conservative of the bunch. Korea is the US if the US's insanities were cranked up to 100. The entertainment industry of Korea is not exempt from the hyper-conservative, highly consumerist social trends of the nation. Comedians will get cancelled online for racism and sexual abuse, but still get their own segments in the country's most watched comedy show. Talent agencies will be exposed to have insanely inhumane conditions and near illegal contracts, but they will still prosper because they're the driving force behind the spread of Korean culture, and also because they net a bizarrely high amount of money for the economy. Child labor makes up a big part of the K-pop and K-drama industry, and nothing has been done to combat that. Kids as young as 12 or 13 are selling their lives to major entertainment corporations as part of inhumane trainee programs just to get the chance to debut as a K-pop idol. The general public is well aware of this, yet nothing is being done. It's not a surprise that it's leached onto the Vtuber sphere. Next thing I know, Korean Vtuber talent agencies will start recruiting middle/high schoolers and force them into horrifying contracts to make them into the next Hosimachi Suisei, whatever that's supposed to mean. I really hate S's. TLDR, Korea is headed at Mach 10 towards a brick wall and they cannot even hope to scale it. For any VTubers, students, or other people interested in working with a Korean company or coming to Korea, don't. There's no future for you here. And then he says below, the blame of the situation seems to rest entirely on VNU's shoulders, but that's if we assume Serafi is telling the entire truth. We have no way of verifying her claims though, so I'll just have to take them at face value. She states that her problems with the company mainly had to do with how upper management handled things and the managers that she's been assigned. I don't have a reason to doubt her claims about VNU's incompetencies, and I have a suspicion that the managers that she's been assigned have actually been interns, as it's common practice to hire incompetent but academically excellent students in new and old Korean companies. There's no way to salvage something after the core itself has rotten. Just gotta pray something becomes better to take its place. Incompetency is a very common theme amongst failed VTuber agencies, and I'm surprised that nobody has learned the lesson. At this point, I'm convinced it's safer to be an indie than a corpo VTuber. Hope VNU gets what they deserve and Serafi manages to grow despite this. I very much agree with all of this, really. Korea was, you aren't quitting, you're fired to Twitch. Oh, I see. Oh yeah, the Korean ISPs are an actual cartel with government backing. The corporations basically run the country, and also the Asian business autism you can imagine. The Korean courts hit Twitch with a massive bill for shutting down services in the region because the scene is massively corrupt. Did Twitch contest that bill or anything? That's dark. It is. I think that Korea is a doomed society. That's my blunt assessment. Korea is a doomed society. There is no future for Korea. The Korean peninsula will become a wasteland within 100 years at this rate, and it will be colonized, because Koreans have decided to not have children, period. There's something like 0.58 on the replacement scale, which means that one child is being born for something like every 3 die. I mean, Twitch can just ghost the country now. They should. They should, and I would 100% support Twitch for doing so. Because that is nonsense. That is just absolute insanity. They don't need to. There's nothing Korea can do to make Twitch pay. Chaebols are something else in that country. It does not feel democratic at all because of it. I don't know. I'd assume they just ignore them like Serafi was advised to. What do you think will happen to Japan in 100 years? I mean, Japan's population is shrinking, but it will at some point stabilize. It's just a question of when and how. Sorry, I need to blow my nose again. I wonder why that is. Almost as America's at fault. I don't agree with that at all. I think that Korea is literally controlled by a sexist all-female satanic society. I should look into that more because that's that would be a deep dive, that would be a hell of a deep dive stream, really. I mean, Japan's problems can be summed up, and a lot of Asian societies, is just a complete resistance to important change. And the Koreans are so indoctrinated into their socialist mindset, it is honestly terrifying to me. I mean, when Fern says, imagine America's worst aspects but dialed up to 100, I agree with him completely. Because there was let me just look it up 1 second. Give me a moment. Korean ferry disaster. What was this? The Incheon ferry? Sinking of the MV Seawall. Yeah, the Incheon ferry disaster. And this was honestly one of the most chilling things I have ever read in my whole life. I'll just put it in chat too. There it is. The Incheon ferry disaster really highlights the massive problem with Asian societies, and Korea in particular. Because during the Incheon ferry disaster, the Incheon ferry sank in calm, clear waters during the middle of the day. It sank very slowly. It took something like, let me just make sure. Yes. Sorry, let me just check and see how long it took to sink. Like, it took at least an hour or two to sink. And the what happened was it was full of students and other people. And what the teachers did, as soon as they realized the ship was sinking, they told the students to stay in their bunks, in their cabins, and then they left the ship. They went off the ship. They did not bother to inform the rescue parties that there were people left on the ship. The adults left the sinking ship, which was sinking very slowly, in calm, clear, open waters. The adults got on the first boats that came to the scene, and then they left. The students stayed in their cabins. And my voice might change a bit in pitch here because this genuinely did disturb me for a long time when I first read about it, because and you have to realize how, yeah, as Gigadramon says, it's a parable for listening to authority figures unquestioningly, because these hundreds and hundreds of students, they sat in their cabins and they drowned while they had clear ability to leave. And I think only a few of them actually took the initiative to leave. And there's actually recordings of students which they still had access to Wi-Fi, because this sinking was in like a peninsula that was still in clear sight of land and everything. Or not, or like within 60 or so kilometers of port, so they still had access to internet and so on. And there are recordings and text messages of students who were sending their loved ones like goodbye messages as they drowned in their cabins. But they had been told to stay, and they were so indoctrinated into obeying their elders without question that they stayed in their cabins and let themselves drown rather than do anything to save themselves. And that was the tragedy of this situation, that for hours and hours, every single person on that ship could have been saved. And they died because they had been raised in a society which said the worst thing you can do in your entire life is disobey your elders and your betters. I'm sorry, even just remembering that, because I watched I watched several documentaries about that. But you can't just say, oh, they were idiots. You can't just say, oh, they should have known better. You can't dismiss it, because those people represent how bad things can get. Those people are dead examples of how a culture can be so damaged and can be so broken that people are willing to let themselves die rather than question a fallible human authority figure. And I find it a tremendous source of motivation when, going back to what I was talking about at the start of the stream, where I feel that self-determination and self-will are the most important qualities that any person can have. I think of those people who died on the Incheon ferry, the seawall disaster, because those people are the exact attitude, show exactly how far that it's possible for humans to go in the opposite direction. It wasn't the teachers who abandoned the ship, it was the crew of the ship. A lot of teachers died too because they listened to the captain. Okay, I'm sorry for getting that wrong. Again, I genuinely think that this incident is something that should be mandatory reading in school. A society that doesn't care for its children is not a society that will or deserve to survive. Yeah. I think the Korean Peninsula should be a wasteland for breeding that kind of society. I don't think it's a culture that deserves to continue existing, to be honest. It gets worse as you read it. One of the rescuers suffered injuries that put him out of work. I mean, it's one of the very few instances that even thinking about it makes me feel upset. And it makes me feel upset to the point of tears. And then they took his own way out after criticizing the government. Yeah. You've got to be aware, but you've got to be aware of these kind of things. You have the Nuremberg trials and the Geneva Suggestion List, which truly paints how horrible humans can be to one another. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. It really is. I'm sorry, that went a little bit darker than I really kind of wanted it to. I apologize. I apologize for that. But again, I think you need to talk about these kind of things. I don't think that people should be concealed from those kind of things, from those kind of realities. Because it is important to think about those kind of things. But there is other stuff that we're going to talk about, definitely. And it's along similar lines, actually, because I mentioned the competency crisis in the title of this video. And that is in reference to this thing right here. Here it is. Odd that there isn't a German version of the Wikipedia article, despite it being available in 34 other languages. Gee, I wonder why. On the bright side, the captain of the ship is serving a life sentence for abandoning ship. The owner of the ship, it was officially listed as a suicide, but he was clearly assassinated. Germans need to accept their history to teach it properly. Yeah, that'll happen in a million years. But anyway, this was obviously, it's a Twitter post and a caption from a Reddit thread, which is it's Reddit, but it led to an interesting comment that I was also able to share with my best friend, who is in a very good position to criticize and comment about this kind of thing. And it says, every smart person I know is failing. My brother, who is a valedictorian of our high school, is unemployed. My best friend, who skipped grades and went to MIT for math, is a beach bum now in Florida working at a bar. I've personally made enough money to quit society if I moved to a cheap college town, and I am seriously considering it. I do not see the point in working, and I am totally burned out. Meanwhile, the most mid people I have met throughout my life are rising to director positions at companies, going on crazy vacations, becoming influencers, and having families. Truly, every really bright person I know who studied something serious at a good school is now unemployed and working on an esoteric passion project no one will ever care about. Has it always been this way, or is society especially cooked? Now, this was a quote by Manlet King. And I have no idea who Manlet King is. He seems to have like 9,000 followers, so he's not a total who. But I thought that his comment here was extremely interesting. And he said, because being smart or talented does not translate into having a job in America at all, and I would extend this to Europe as well. The most talented and hardworking people are continuously kept in lower positions at near every company. Ever heard the phrase, "you're too valuable at your current position"? That means replaceable people get the promotion. This happens over and over until the person barely able to do the grunt work is a middle manager and the entire building is operating off the productivity of 2 or 3 competent people doing 4 jobs at once. One of them quits and the business falls apart. But the real kicker is the middle manager, who has 0 skills, now has management experience and can trade up until when they get a new job. The competent worker passed up only has entry-level experience and has to get another entry-level job. Compound this across 30 years and nationwide with things like cronyism and offshoring labor, and the competency crisis starts to make a bit more sense. This was dark but needed. It should be brought up as much as a certain Chinese square incident that YT culled from chat. Nice censorship you have there, Google. And I thought this was interesting enough to share with my best friend, who is an economist and also a structured settlement broker and various other things. And he had this to say about it. He said, most sufficiently intelligent people stand in their own way to a much greater degree than stupid people and midwits. They also generally get discriminated against at a much higher rate. Nobody likes it when you're smarter than them, and a lot of envious individuals sabotage their organizations and institutions by passing over extremely skilled candidates due to personal disagreements. What he said about the labor force is generally true, and I think a lot of truly bright people tend to become small business owners or entrepreneurs because it suits our needs a lot better than the conventional 9-to-5 where you have to swallow orders from on high. The smarter you get, the less you want to accept management by committee, or by people who you can tell are your intellectual inferior. There are an increasing number of people of all intelligences, young men especially, simply saying, no, F this, in response to the whole system they are being asked to continue and support. People who realize innately that the game has been rigged against them and have no interest in playing. The smarter you are, the more capable you are of social contract analysis, the more likely that you look at the 60 years of wage slavery to barely afford the essentials of life and say, I would literally rather learn how to live in my car / off the land doing the bare minimum. The single biggest determinant of happiness at a high IQ is some form of religion. All the high-power litigators, most of whom are at the lower end of the genius distribution, 130 to 145 IQ range, too much above that, and you are less effective at trial because the average juror is somewhere between 80 to 150 in intelligence, I've met are deeply religious or deeply alcoholic. I think this is why transsexualism is such a powerful force for SJWism. It leverages the power of many otherwise non-religious high IQ people to demand the state become powerful enough to force acceptance of their reality-denying nonsense. It's become a sort of new era social contract for people willing to destroy themselves to be the first transhuman experiment. And actually, because that's quite a lot, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to screenshot this comment, and because it's on Discord, I'm going to copy it, I'm going to put it in Vtuber discussion, and then I'm going to open it in browser. There we go, it's on browser now. There we go. I'm going to turn the chat off so that we can see it. Big Wheel, wait until AI is used to parse emails and documents/projects these people have contributions to and filter out the duddards. If God does not exist, it would be necessary to invent him and all that. Promotion depends more on networking and good relationship instead of skills. Also, training someone to take over your position when you go up to the corporate ladder. I would agree with you, and the problem, Winscene, is that in many cases, intelligent people are not very good at networking because they tend to stick with their own kind, and middle managers tend to not be very intelligent. The kinds of people who are very good at their jobs and the kind of people who are either decent at managing people with their jobs or are average at are good at social connection are very different. You very often get intelligent people who are good at a task but are very bad at networking. It's why, it's like the genius recluse. It's like the Steve Jobs. Like, Steve Jobs was a fantastic ideas guy. He was so and so, but he needed other people to do other parts of the job. And Apple becoming the massive thing that it was when it gained a large pool of people who were able to do marketing, as opposed to just sit in a garage and come up with great design and software ideas. But I thought that my friend's commentary was extremely useful, and it underlined something that I feel is very relevant in the modern society. I'm in this picture and I don't like it. You have my sympathy. You have my sincere sympathy. That society is very, very bad at giving people reasons to live. And that is why I support the idea of people being informed and educated to the point where they are able to find their own reasons for living. They are able to satisfy their own spiritual needs, which is very difficult. I think it's one of the hardest things you can be asked to do. I mean, I think a large number of people, there have been studies done which say a large number of people occupy their minds 100% at all times with various forms of content because they are actually terrified of being alone with their own thoughts. That people will do anything except think for themselves because they are scared and they become extremely depressed when they are left alone with their own thoughts. Society is very, very bad, clown emoji. I agree, society is very, very bad, but I mean, there's society with a capital letter and society with a small s. And I think people need to stop thinking so much about society with a capital letter. Much more people need to think about society with a small s, as in personal, intimate society connections between people as opposed to groups. High IQ people are passionate about their work and focused on it. Modern work environment is all about recreating high school for midwits and is completely soul-destroying for the smart people. I agree. I mean, my friend who is in this Discord screenshot right now, again, he has said before, he has said this is a direct quote from him, a direct quote. He says, I believe that there are the two worst things a parent can do to their child is 1, mutilate their genitals, 2, put them through the American education system. And again, this is a man who makes a very large amount of money for himself. He is an extraordinarily successful independent entrepreneur. And he is a self-made man, and he grew up in very, very poor circumstances, had to endure the madness of mainstream education, and I said to him, because I am home educated, I said to him quite a few years ago now, I said to my friend Alex, I am kind of envious of you because I feel as if by going through mainstream education, you have an ability to deal with normal, regular people that I lack. You have a patience for society that I lack. And he said to me, I don't view it as a benefit at all. I think that it's not patience. It was beaten into me to tolerate these kind of things. That I have been desensitized. I didn't learn how to deal with it. I became desensitized. I was overloaded. I was pressurized. I was beaten down by the system. And that made me rephrase my attitude and reparse my attitude towards it all. Please give me just a moment. Those are those two things. Yes. And I thought this also, we talked about Korea, and I think that actually neatly segues into this also Twitter comment that I found pretty fascinating and also terrifying. It's a bit old now, but he says, even if you don't deserve it, this is what happens when a foreign nation completely obsesses over ESG. In other words, becomes consumed by the progressive agenda. And this is talking about Sri Lanka. Should current trends in global energy supplies continue, Sri Lanka could end up being just a harbinger of larger things to come around the rest of the world in the months and years ahead. Somewhat ironically, an analysis of the full ESG ratings linked above shows that many of the nations with the highest scores are developing nations with the highest degrees of famine risk. Haiti, as an example, has an ESG score of 99, while the well-fed United States stands far down the list at just over 58. I wonder how China goes with this. The school system goes as slow as the dumbest kid in class. Pardon me. Indeed, and there are many other issues with it. One second, please. Let me. Where is this book? Oh, that's Industrial Society and its Future. That's Myers Psychology. That's Cause Unknown. That's... No, here it is. Here it is. It is... Will this open properly? No, it's going to open in Microsoft Edge for some reason. That's just wonderful. Open with Brave. Here it is. This is a book I highly recommend. I have not been able to read a huge amount of it yet. There are so many books similar to this that I want to read. I mean, this is 700 pages, so it's not going to be easy to get through. But this is The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America by Charlotte Thompson Iserbyt. A chronological paper trail. And what this does is it talks about American education. Yes, it says, Charlotte is to be greatly commended for having put together the most formidable and practical compilation of documentation describing the deliberate dumbing down of American children by their education system. Anyone interested in the truth will be shocked by the way American social engineers have systematically gone about destroying the intellect of millions of American children for the purpose of leading the American people into a socialist world government controlled by behavioral and social scientists. Yep, and I had multiple teachers justify that to me when I complained about it. They ultimately put me in special ed because then the severely emotionally disturbed classes. God, the one thing I hate about the school where the Tyrones in gang couldn't go to juvie fast enough. Where is this? Here it is. Yeah, I'm just zooming in a tiny bit. I haven't got chat up. I apologize. I'll put nope. There we go. Yes, I think that books like this are incredibly useful because, again, it underlines the fact that what I see people constantly get themselves into is the idea that all of this is new. What I see distressing from people who are under the age of 40 or 50 is that they view things like ESG and also like bridge and the modern progressive movement to be new things. These are the battles of this generation. Whereas my parents remember things like this. And it's when you put the generational experiences together that you start to realize there is nothing new under the sun. So the problems of today are just the same problems as we had yesterday, just in different forms. And what I advocate is becoming familiar with the basic patterns of society so that you are able to recognize the fundamental issues behind each social movement, rather than become convinced that each social movement is new and unique. By the way, quick advice for anyone sending their kids to school: don't send them to a school's advertising for being bully-free. That just means the system hides the bullying actively. Yeah, I agree. Well adjusted to a profoundly sick society? In Asian education, failing students will certainly be held back. Some schools even expel students who get held back twice. There was an article that I read recently, that I looked at recently. American mathematical skills falling. So let's see if that gets me in. Gets me. Ask me in 3 days. This is EdSurge. Why are American mathematical skills? I mean, you know most of this already. You know that people here, I would be astonished if anyone in my chat did not realize that American systems are proactively degrading over time to allow more and more stupid, illiterate people past. So ESG really is just how many of your white people have you killed off? You literally cannot get expelled from in Germany. You can literally kill someone and not even get moved to a different class. I laugh, but the trouble is I believe that. I believe that in Germany. I experienced that and felt disappointed with my teachers during my time in high school. I feel it's very saddening to me that people, the moment I start talking about like education, the people in my chat immediately just going to say, yeah, I know, it's terrible, it's awful. I really do feel I dodged such a massive bullet, and I feel so unbelievably blessed by having parents that gave me a home education. When I have children, they are not going anywhere near mainstream education. Anywhere near. At best, I will hire a tutor. That's it. Anything else, I will teach them myself or in my community. Now then, I've been live for about 2 hours, and honestly, I would rather pause the stream here and do another stream in sometime, either tomorrow or at the weekend, because my throat is starting to hurt quite badly. I had a cold on the weekend, and I really don't feel up to another hour of talking or so. I'll just put that in my personal notes. This stream was interestingly philosophical overall. I didn't mean to get sidetracked so much at the start of stream. I do apologize for engaging so much with like the political stuff of things. I am sorry about that. In future, I need to structure my streams a little bit better. I'm aware of this. I need to stop tangenting quite so much at the start of stream. Instead, I think that the first part of my stream should be more goal orientated, and then later on, after I'm over the more goal orientated stuff, I will focus more on, I'll just do more like tangenting and chatting. Project getting sidetracked tangent guy. I know, I'm terrible at it. That sums it up very well. Good. As I've been streaming more and more, I've been understanding more what I enjoy doing. Blitzberg lasted pretty long at the beginning. Yeah, it did. I'm sorry about that. I get annoyed when people who obviously have absolutely no idea what they're talking about just going to ramble on. I mean, this is why Dazzle is banned from the Discord, because he just has this magical ability to cause a certain part of my brain that wants to correct people. He activates the correction is needed part so I just feel a compulsive urge to argue with him because of his bizarre attitudes and viewpoints on things. A dazzling ability, you might say. But I mean, even so, I think it has some use because I don't want anybody to think that I am anything but exactly what I am. I don't want to have any people think that I am somebody who I'm not. I miss Dazzle. Ooh, I hate you, Super Duper. I really do. I would rather take you for, well, no, I would not take Super Duper anywhere. Luminous, just crying emoji, crying emoji, crying emoji, crying emoji. But this has been a bit more introspective of a stream than I thought, and like touching on that ferry, I am amazed to this day how much that ferry disaster emotionally affects me. I mean, I am a more emotional man than most people, I would say, or at least I'm more openly emotional. I think Super Duper / Rie sucks. I had a dream a few days ago where I dreamed that Rie had graduated. I dreamed waking up and coming out to my shed and turning on my computer and reading on my like my Proctor Sleep Updates thing that Rie had posted a graduation announcement. I dreamed that. I dreamed that Rie had graduated. Proctor, if you dream you graduating, I think you might be a bit too far gone. I can't help it. I can't help it. And I remember it was a really involved dream too, because I remember looking like in my dream. Again, this is in my dream. This is in my dream. In fact, it's just in case people think that I'm that. I want to make certain that people don't think that I'm like ratting or anything or spilling like. This is. There we go. Like, I remember in my dream going into my shed, sitting down at my thing and seeing Proctor Sleep Update saying Rie has graduated. And then I remember in my dream talking to Kirsha and her saying, yep, that's exactly, remember we talked about this before, she was going to graduate at the end of February. Like that's the knowledge that I can't believe you forgot about it. And it was so realistic to me. It sounded so much like a conversation that I might actually have with Kirsha that when I woke up, I legitimately thought, oh wow, Rie graduated yesterday. That was like the culmination of this great rat thing that I had been talking about with other VTubers in private for ages. And then I realized, oh wait, no, that was a dream. That was a dream. It was literally just a dream. None of that actually happened. Maybe you should start power napping to optimize your VTuber graduation powers. I mean, when I dream, I have a very, very narrative-orientated style of dreaming. Crush Christ Dance. I'm astonished that Nolan hasn't tried streaming before, honestly. Proctor's brain is trying to channel the graduation powers against specific targets. I mean, I'm a Christian, so I am forbidden from practicing magic, but were I not bound by Christian oaths, I would seriously wonder if if I shouldn't visit some kind of psychic to see if I can properly harness my graduation powers. and properly target them towards somebody like Fruit. What's this thing about you waking up and people graduating? I hear the meme a bit. Basically, the joke is that whenever I go to sleep, VTubers graduate, because I have very reliably been asleep for all the major events in the VTuber sphere. Like when Selene graduated, I was asleep. when like a various other, like I think in last year when there was a massive like indie graduation thing, I was asleep for every single one of those. So like the joke is, if I go to sleep, people start dying or graduating, or major industry accidents and problems happen. I'll put this back to regular now. Where's my avatar gone? Has my avatar died? Yes, it has. I'm no longer live. Oh, there we go. Every time he sleeps, a major event happens. Yeah, that's basically what happens. That's pretty much it. Boss man slept over the Akio air closure. Yeah, that happened. I mean, they're a company in Singapore, so actually, just check my email. Did they ever get back to me? I doubt they did, but we'll check. We'll check and see. We'll check and see. Diddy-dum. Oh! Holy crap. They did. 1 hour ago they sent me a reply. We are liquidating both models used by talents and those that failed to debut, particularly ones that have debuted for a day, give or take, and those that have revealed their model but have yet to debut. As we formally mentioned, we require people who wish to purchase models to provide content creation records, as it is important for us that these models are only being used for their intended purpose. Okay. That's interesting. It seems like every time I stream, I get a message from Akio Air. That's bizarre. I think you also slept over both the Serafi termination and the latter letter also, and the later letter too. Yeah, I think so as well. I watch disaster channels. 3 Disaster Before Breakfast makes me feel better about current year to see how things always sucked. Also, no using them to make SFM prawn or what? Akio Air are big fans of the Send them your streams? No, I don't think that I will. Oh, it's his avatar now, I see. What are you talking about, Brain Doko? But anyway, I also need to go to the bathroom too, and it's getting extremely cold. It is freezing. My toes are freezing. I have a suspicion they want content creation records so they can deny the talents buying the models from them. That's actually a good point, Gigadramon6. That is a very good point, actually. Which... yeah, that's strange. It means... that's actually very interesting. You know, actually thinking about it... let's look at this again. I'll just put this in Discord, so I can open it on stream. 1 second, please. This is worth staying alive for another little while at the very least. Vtuber discussion. Here we go. Does this no, it doesn't dox anything or anything. So open in browser. No, open in my other browser, please. This one, thank you. Right, this is the email that was sent to me. Here we go. There we go. I'll turn off chat again, and I'll just zoom in a bit so you can actually see the details. Look at what they say here. This is quite interesting. We are liquidating both models used by talents and those that fail to debut. Incel to anime femboy pipeline reel later. As we formally mentioned, we require people who wish to purchase models to provide content creation records, as it is important for us that these models are only being used for their intended purpose. Now, Gigadramon6 said, I have a suspicion they want content creation records so they can deny the talents buying the models from them. Yeah, now that is very interesting, because this means they only want to provide the models to people they have serious expectation of using them. Which basically means, now, given how spiteful and vindictive Akio Air has been to their talents before, this is a rant. But I think there is a realistic possibility that they are trying to sell these models to content creators because they want to disrupt the legacy of the talents they actually used to have. Ow! I just pinched myself. Ow, that was clever. I doubt anyone but the actual talents could use these models without social pushback. Yeah, I agree with you. But I think they want to sell these models for them to be actually used so that it makes it harder for their talents that used to use these models to actually get to have their their presence properly verified. Because if you're using the same models over and over again, then it becomes much harder to verify who is who. The waters become muddies. I was just thinking they wanted to at least make sure Athi can't have hers back. I would honestly be interested in buying Athi's model. And I don't mean use it, but as people suggested buying it and giving it back to her. If I was able to pay $200 to $250 to $300 for that, I would genuinely seriously consider it. I sincerely doubt they'd want $250 to $300. I think they'd be more than that. They'd demand more than that, but I might actually ask. Because I know a few VTuber contacts. I might ask some VTubers that I know, hey, do you mind if I use you as a reference and just say, hey, I'm this person or I'm representing this person? So I can, say, put in a bid for something like Athi's model and go, will you take this money or would you like more of it for more of this? What if you locked as a manager of a new agency that has no name yet as in pre-debut? I don't think they'd take that. That it seems a bit obvious. I would understand if they wanted more proof than that. It's still possible for a third party to buy the model and sell it back to the original VTuber. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. That would be an asshole move. But yeah, this is it is consistently interesting to me. I might think about it a bit more because, again, I just feel like there's something that could be done here. I just, it's on the tip of my, it's in my brain pan, but it's just not quite forming yet. I'll have to think about it a bit more. And I'm certainly not interested in thinking about it at nearly 20 past 12. Oh no. I'm starting to swallow things down the wrong way too. You can pose as my manager, lol. I might actually do that, Mexifish. That's not a bad idea. Why do they care about the models being used for... I'm reading Discord, by the way. What do they care about the models being used for their intended purpose? Don't they just want to sell that shit? License the one to Athi and keep the rest to reuse? I mean, the new stuff, I don't even think there are any, reveals of some of the newer stuff they did. Giving Serafi... No, it's not Serafi, this is a different company. Better to sell it to the VTuber for low cost, they can have the IP right solidly in their pocket. That's not a bad idea, Luminous. But I just nearly swallowed something down the wrong way completely, so my voice is very rapidly starting to crack up and break. And I don't want to stress it if I'm going to do another stream sometime this week as well. So I am going to end things on this note, and I'll be back again in a little while. I'm going to go and get some coffee, I think. Take care of yourself. Yeah, I will. I need to do a Serafi now. I need to rest my voice for a bit, otherwise it's going to strain. It's been so annoying. I had this brief cold on Sunday. On Saturday to Sunday, and by Monday I was feeling a lot better. But it seems like 2 hours or so, and I start my voice just starts straining. Damn, like a good stream. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. I might, with my sleep schedule, I might start streaming a bit earlier in the day as well. But we'll see. I don't want to be up so much, especially during the summer months when there's more daylight. We can talk about that later. Thank you all very much for coming. I will see you all later. Maybe Thursday, maybe Friday or whatever. We'll see. Thank you for your time. Good night.